Let's drill into one of those a little bit more. Going beyond core banking, becoming more customer relevant. It's about improving, therefore, the client-bank relationship. And this is an animation that I found from Capgemini. And to Lucky's point from earlier, it's nothing wrong with copying, so I copied their slide. Which is these tenets, these elements that are within the banking sector that we have to use to improve things. So one is your knowledge of the customer, the preferences, their behaviours, the stage they're at in life. If anybody is interested, again, this is going to come back to our discussion, perhaps taken offline, about what Fusion Banking Insight can deliver. If you need to know about your customers, not to go down maybe as far as that target example that I gave earlier, you need to have some way of improving your knowledge. Now, of course, you already have huge repositories of information. You'll have a corporate data warehouse. You will have perhaps multiple applications to do data quality, data management, data integration. I may be on slightly shaky ground, but I would say you've also got lots of silos of information where not every set of information is analysed and understood in the round. It's looked at in isolation. If you are like that, ladies and gentlemen, you are not alone. Most banks in the world that I've ever advised have a model that operates like that. So the answer is the knowledge of your customer. That was the same whether we're in a digital world or whether we were doing everything in our banking world with a ledger and a pen. It was about analysing the information that existed. It's also about this idea of getting a much tighter fit between the products and the channels. And I'm not going to talk about this one now, because I'm going to come back to that in a few slides' time, because I've got something a little more, I should say, powerful to share with you. That's just me pressing B on in the presentation, which is go black. There's also this idea of trust and confidence, which has taken a huge knock. If you look at the Capgemini World Retail Banking Report, and Zimbabwe, I don't think is immune from that, and Africa as a region is focused on as well, is that there is still a trust issue in banking. Customers and banks have an uneasy relationship. Banks are not Apple, they are not Amazon, they're not PayPal, they're not, pick a name of a popular brand. Banks are seen as a necessary evil, a bit like a utility company. Sorry for speaking plainly, but that's often the way that customers actually perceive banks. There, I've said it, now let's do something about it. So it's never going to be, there'll be that perfect relationship that maybe a bank and customer will have, but the relationship can be much better. Those trust gaps, I've written about trust gaps for what seems like forever, they need to be closed, and I think they are starting to be closed by placing the customer's interests at the head of the queue. Far too many banks, I've advised, over the years, have put the customer in their communications, in their corporate reports, in their presentations to financial investors. The customer is way down the list. It's about maybe employees, it's been about shareholders. The customer's been a tertiary or secondary consideration. That, I think, is the wrong way of looking at it. It seems so obvious to say, and yet I still see the same mistakes being made over and over and over again. There's intimacy and relationship. Again, not going back to that target example that I used earlier, but intimacy in terms of how frequently your customer interacts with you and what the quality of that interaction with is like. We talk about omni-channel interaction, the ability to interact seamlessly through lots of different channels, online, mobile, branch, contact centre, ATM. That's great to be able to do it, but actually, if I've got an inquiry, I just want it dealt with as quickly as possible using as few touch points as possible. If I can do it all in one, fabulous. But I've got to use a couple of those touch points, let's make sure there's some consistency. So there is frequent interaction, but it shouldn't become onerous. It shouldn't have to suck the life out of me thinking, this is going to be an hour of my life I'm not going to get back. I just want to make a mortgage inquiry. And then, as I think I covered in some of my previous remarks, there is this consistent multi-channel or omni-channel experience. So don't make it very fragmented. It needs to be seamless across lots of different channels, so the experience is universally really quite good. But at the same time, again, I hesitate because it's something quite hard to acknowledge, is that, first of all, not all customers are equal. Some customers will deserve that priority service based upon their status and their wealth and their worth to you as an individual. Not all customers are good customers. Some are very, very irresponsible. They could not be lent to with any degree of confidence. And also, it's about having that granularity, that understanding customers at individual level, not just bucketing them into you're this age, in this zip or postal code, with this income. You need to have more understanding, I think, than that. And of course, what we've seen in the industry, Zimbabwe's been no different. So I don't just kind of categorise Zimbabwe as being out on its own in this island of tranquility or indeed chaos, is that there were sort of features of the industry in prior years of equivalent to the emergency stop button being pushed, whether there was more government intervention, whether there were bank failures because of toxic assets. That's just, again, the economic and the sort of the commercial reality of all the things that happened in this banking economy and others for the last few years. Covering things that I spoke of previously, but this shift from sales to service, and everything had to be service. It's like this, it's like good versus evil. It's like sales is equal, service is good. And actually, from what I showed you earlier, it's about that balance. It's about I'm not going to try to do it, but it's about that balance between sales on the one hand and service on the other. So, with that sales and service balance in mind, let me consider that question, which is, how are your objectives going to be funded? How are you going to develop the next generation, next iteration of your banking services? Partly it will be based upon the strategy that I know you've been following for some time, which is let's save money. Let's try to be ruthlessly efficient, to operate to lean or Kaizen principles, to make sure that every spending justification is justified, that the business cases are written with rigour rather than just throwing money at a problem without really understanding what the costs and the benefits are as a result. The saving money is still going to continue. But so will this. So is this the next evolution, if you will, which is the making money, which is quite a tough message to talk about, maybe not amongst an audience of professionals like yourselves. When you begin to socialise that message at a more wider level, and actually saying, we're a bank, we're going to make money out of our customers. Now, where the industry has been, it's tough to articulate that. So it has to be done in a way that I think is acceptable, versus unacceptable. Because if I look at who's going to be paying for the ambitions that we all have, whether it's MISIS in terms of wanting to expand our growth and expand our revenue, by selling more software to banks wanting to expand their revenue, ultimately it comes down to customers. So it's about giving that customer experience, having that virtuous circle that says we're actually going to make money from our customers, we will save money elsewhere by being efficient and by identifying areas that we can be smarter, better, I don't like the word cheaper, but we are much more cost effective in how we can deliver this, but it's going to be largely around engaging with the customer and deepening the share of wallet. Maybe in some economies that message is harder to deliver than others. Again, I've shared this in a number of regions, but I think the same is true. So let's not hide away from it. Customers are the secret to all of our success. You are our customers or our prospects. We depend on you, you depend on your customers. We're all part of this value chain. Let's try and make each other's lives as easy as we can to meet the needs of all of us within this room and within this industry. And I come back to this idea of acceptable versus unacceptable. What do I mean by acceptable? Let's go to Hollywood for a moment. Acceptable can be this, and if anybody has seen the film Jerry Maguire, which is where Tom Cruise is now yelling into a phone, for those of you that haven't seen Jerry Maguire, you'll be thinking, why on earth is that on the slide? Because that's a very famous quote from that film where he is yelling down the phone. Didn't he have to do it? Exactly. Actually, more passion. Show me the money!
Show me the money!
I'm showing you the money! Okay, so that idea of showing me the money, I think is okay. So it's about being transparent. Customers know the service that they're going to get because they know that they're going to be expected to make some, should we say, payment, or they'll know that there'll be a fee, there'll be something that's involved that is revenue generating. As long as you're transparent about that, customers will respond. And let's go to Hollywood again for the next example, winding back about 10 years, which is that greed is not good, to Gordon Gekko's point. And these are fictionalised characters. And yet, if you look at what happened inside the banking industry, let's say we, and I don't really mean we, but the moral compass in banking globally, and by globally I mean largely first world, and I mean largely Europe and largely the US, that moral compass, if you can have a moral compass in banking, something went badly wrong. And so what we're now paying for, or trying to overcome, is the perception of the banker as what we say the fat cat, somebody who is there to try to make money at the expense of everybody else in their quest to get to the top, treading on little people as they go. Hideous. A hideous way to be perceived as an industry. I don't think so much we have that problem to overcome maybe here, you could tell me otherwise, but I think it's acceptable versus unacceptable, certainly in an emerging economy where improving society, improving financial inclusiveness is very important. Let us not erode that work by allowing the greed is good phenomena, culture, to seep either in or to ever come back in to banking. There endeth the lesson. Because actually it's about this. This is about Hollywood, I've run out of Hollywood-related things. It's about catering to our ultra-connected consumer. Remembering my statistics from earlier, fresh in my memory, with 89% mobile penetration, we can see, and these are figures from the GSMA, that all across the world, there is this rising online and mobile penetration. If I look at Africa, now the average in Africa for mobile penetration is 19%. But actually, it's in here in Zimbabwe, it's 89%. So, in terms of the starting point, very, very, very significant. So how do you cater to the ultra-connected consumer? I'm slightly embarrassed by this slide. I should have made it more regional specific, but there's this idea that we're always on, we're always checking our devices. Now, the average user, that's a statistic for you to take away with, or to take away today with, that's bad English. The average user apparently checks their mobile device 163 times a day. Just to see if there's a new message, there's someone's got something on Facebook, their boss has said to them, where are you? It's 3 in the afternoon, you said you were going for lunch an hour ago. We're checking our devices much, much, much more. So how do you kind of engage with this audience? I accept it's a generational thing. Lots of cool-looking millennials, all attached to their phones, all doing really interesting things. Let's go back a few decades. Someone's still travelling in a carriage, but they're just consuming content in what was then the most relevant channel, or through the most relevant mechanism, most relevant medium, which was the consumption through the newspaper. So whilst, yes, digital has brought many, many things to society, and it's made that we maybe walk around with our headphones on, lost in our own little worlds of Facebook and some other social networking and our emails and whatever we're doing, there are some things that I think we can learn lessons from in history. And so how do you engage with carefully targeted advertising? How do we actually make sure that our message, whether it's our Mises message, and along with the memory sticks, you've no idea how hard it is to get 1, 2, 3 banners into Zimbabwe. My colleague Voka could tell you how hard it is. Lucky can tell you how hard it is. It ain't easy. But whether it's using our messaging with our banners, whether it's using digital advertising and becoming more targeted, here's where we're starting to go to get beyond